Hello, ladies and gentlemen! Man, it's been a while since I've used my voice like this. Now really, I've spent most of my days indoors doing assignments, making movies, and playing video games. I know, I lack a social life, but what can you do? As you can see, I've hit 20,000 subscribers! Woo! To reach that number, wow. Especially considering my rather long and inconsistent uploading schedule. Nah, I can't express how grateful I am to you guys. Y'all have been very patient and supportive throughout these, 2 years? Is that how long it's been? Gee, when you're as old as I am, and by that I mean I'm not that old. Time flies by really quickly. I had so much time back in the old days when I made my first video. Heck, I had enough time to make an Undertale and Sims 3 series. Except that series will probably never see the light of day. Who knows? Anyways, yeah. I just wanted to express how thankful I am, really. I mean, I sound like a broken record at this point, but I can't stress enough. You know, thank you. You guys are so awesome. And don't let anyone tell you otherwise. As with my previous milestone, I thought it'd be nice to bring back the old commentary regarding the concepts and ideas behind the Undertale DDD videos. No, it's not dream drop distance, guys, come on. And now that I have a better microphone and I ain't too mic shy, hopefully I don't sound like I just woke up. Oh man, ever since my last commentary there's been a lot of progress, so maybe this video might be longer than the last one. Or not. Who knows? Anyways, toodaloo.
This DDD production is sponsored by Nightmare Enterprises.
Oh gee, we're gonna start with Gaster now? Alright. Gaster was the first distortion event. A distortion event, if you haven't seen episode 0, which you should, is basically an event that randomly occurs whenever the player activates an event or boots up the game. It will just randomly occur. As mentioned in this title card, Gaster here appears in 1 in 64 chances, and once you've already faced him, you can't face him again in this run, so you'll have to start a new run. The distortion event episodes are generally more story focused than the other main episodes. Well, I'd say that, but ever since episode 6 came out, I'd have to make that an exception. As opposed to the main episodes, which revolve around the main story of Genocide Undertale, give or take a few changes here and there, the distortion event episodes revolve around a side plot, if you will, that may or may not snowball into a new story that I have planned in the future. When I have time. Given that these are random encounters, and heck, if this were a game, there could be a chance where the player never encounters these events at all. Hence why I've decided to make these just alternate pathways. They do not contribute to the main story in any way other than just being alternate endings or alternate pathways to get to said main story's ending, which is kinda sad, not gonna lie. But that's Genocide for you. If you don't know already, the text shown here is in Aster, because the character speaking right now is Gaster, and Aster happens to be in his name. I decided to make the association right there. I decided to give Gaster two, ways to speak. One is normally and coherently, the English Aster font, and the other being wingdings, when, I don't know, he's muttering something to himself in a language that only he can understand. He and maybe some of his followers. Yes, this segment was important in explaining the circumstances that happened with Goner Kid in regards to the Foregone Kid fight. Because people had the idea that Goner Kid just straight up gave up and left during the fight, like, oh, I can't do it, he's too strong, I want to leave now. No, that's not what happened. What basically happened is that this world is basically like Swiss cheese at this point. There are holes in the walls of the reality in this world, and Goner Kid happened to dive into one of these holes and make it into the main world. And the system is trying its best to repair this world by patching up the holes, and as such, that hole eventually closed, and Goner Kid's connection to the main world also closed. As mentioned previously in the title card, some of Gaster's attacks were inspired off of Erich's and Vivid's attacks from Seiho, not Toho. Whoa! This dual soul mode is the reason why I decided to give Gaster 4 stars instead of 3. Yeah, he might not be as hard as Asgore, but he did end up, spoilers, defeating the human, so there's that. And come on, controlling 2 souls at once? I mean, that's hard. Unless of course you decide to bring someone over and cheese the fight as you both control each soul. Cheaters. This one would also be a major project in terms of experimenting my 3D capabilities, with the vortex and the 3D wingdings zooming by in the background. Gaster is also one of the few monsters that is difficult not for complex bullet patterns but rather the mechanics and gimmicks of his fight. If you didn't notice in the background, it's basically just a compilation of all the episodes that had happened thus far, excluding this one. So no Undying, no Mettaton, no Alphys, no Asgore to be found. This giant Gaster Blaster is designed to be unavoidable and will always one-shot the player. This is basically because the player is supposed to lose at this point. I'd consider it a win if you reach up to the giant Gaster Blaster, but technically speaking, Cara loses in this ending. However, since the system revolves around an algorithm that favors the human and ditches morals altogether, it will allow Cara to reset even though they've lost and even though Gaster was trying to take over the save file, but he failed. And this credit sequence right here foreshadows the next distortion event. Alrighty, we're jumping into Undying the Undying. People were asking why there's thunder, lightning, and rain when it's underground. And to that I say, well, there was an instance of rain in the underground. Just take a look at this snippet. I mean, it might not be actual precipitation rain, like it could come from the very ceiling, but I'll take what I can. As for the lightning, well, I decided it'd just be for dramatic effect. This scene with the red spear may or may not be inspired by Glitchtail. What can I say, Camilla? Your works are inspiring. Most of Undying's attacks in this rendition were inspired off of Yomu, and would you believe Meira from the PC98 days of Toho. And I hope I said her name right. Anyways, why Yomu? Well, if I decided to associate Asgore with Yuyuko, for reasons that I explained all the way back in my first commentary, then I decided as the guard in her, it'd be Yomu. With, you know, Undying, the royal guard, yeah. Ah yes, people thought this was a spell card declaration, but no, it was a shot lock. Declaration? It's Undying using a shot lock from Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep, except instead of shooting electrical orbs of death, she's shooting 5 spears of divinity. Come on, Undying, how many Heartless are you gonna kill with that? Oh sorry, unversed. Alright, you will not believe this reference. Okay, so this attack right here was supposed to be reminiscent of Pachuli's Princess Undine spell card. And you know, Undine and Undying look and sound similar. And Undying is related to water since she's a fish lady, so yay! Whoa! We have another distortion event involving the mysterious man himself, Ian-arou. Just like Gaster, Ian-arou here cannot be faced consecutively in a run. So once you face him, he's gone. And he has an even rarer chance to be encountered. 1 in 128 chances. Ah yes, this would be the episode to debut the first attempt of making an overworld. And so far, it's looking pretty nice. In the background, you can see a very vague resemblance of a butterfly and a flower combined together. What is it for? Who knows? I was quite proud of this one segment, even if it's just the overworld. Mainly because I got to create reflections of the character in the puddles, and the rain effects were also pretty nice to make too. To this current date, this one specific area and the throne room are the only areas that the system bothers to recreate. My explanation? These two areas housed very important moments in this world. But even then, just creating these areas makes the system unstable and susceptible to crashes and overloading, hence the ending to Ian-arou's battle. This is also one of the few times I decided to make visual novel-esque sort of cutscenes for the episode. Ian-arou's whole fight revolved around the influence of Cara from the very first Toho game, which is precisely why some of his attacks were inspired by hers, and why he has that health bar thing that was introduced and highly responsive to prayers. As previously mentioned in my 10k commentary that I did back then, the elemental attacks Ian-arou uses with the 8 mysterious orbs were based off of the elements of the I Ching trigram. I used the fire, thunder, and mountain elements for this fight. And technically speaking, as opposed to the usual cardinal directions that your compass would tell you, these elements point in the exact opposite direction, so south is at the top and north is at the bottom. I decided to change that around and have heaven be north and earth be south. It made sense to me. So instead of Eastern Inferno, it's Western Inferno, and you get the idea. I mean, it may go against some of the Chinese philosophical meanings for all these elements and the directions they've been allocated to, but I decided to do my own rendition of these trigram elements. The Fu-Si arrangement of the trigram anyway. Man, I hope I said that right. Alright, so funny story with this attack. So you see those like rotating, orbiting orbs that move in a sort of a square formation? Now, I learned how to make these orbs move like that by staring at the projection of laser lights that moved in a similar pattern. At first when I looked at them, I was kind of puzzled and tripped out, like, whoa, how are they moving like that? Then I was tracing each point of the lasers, and I found out how they moved. And then I decided, this will make a cool idea for a spell. So if you ever needed some sort of inspiration for a Danmaku spell, just take a look at some party lights. Man, I got carried away with this final attack of his. It was basically a mishmash and compilation of Ian-arou's magic attacks that he used way back before this series was born. Yeah, Ian-arou existed before Undertale DDD, in a series that will probably never see the light of day. During the end, when Ian-arou sort of laments and spurts out philosophical nonsense, he mentions this one line of dialogue, saying, "Only time will tell," as he unravels herself before the possibility of a new destiny. Well, notice as he says he instead of they. Now, the human is a they, so obviously Ian-arou's not talking about the human unraveling a new destiny. He's probably talking about someone else. Again, I'm only leaving things to speculation. Once the player receives the notebook from the statue, it'll mention the fact that a new expansion has been unlocked in the modifiers. And once that modifier has been activated, a whole new story mode will take place. And that story mode is the confirmed Season 2 for this series. You heard it from me, ladies and gentlemen. There will be a Season 2. So don't get your panties in a knot, guys. Don't worry. The series ain't dead. I still got Cara and a skeleton I won't name. Whoa, unlike this episode, this is one of my favorite ones. Basically because 3D! I'm gonna leave it to your speculation, right? But if you've seen the ending to episode 6, you'll notice that within the dead monsters, everyone's there, including Monster Kid, who isn't shown to die in this episode, right? So how did he die? All I can say is that Alphys' dialogue during the opening segment might hold some clues. Alright, so here's the story behind Alphys' name, which is Dr. Alphys, right? So I decided to inspire Alphys here based on the Doctor from Doctor Who. You'll notice a few references here and there, from the time vortex Alphys sends you in, to the TARDIS sounds that she makes when she materializes in front of you, to the fact that her defense is the number 13. You know, because the 13th Doctor is a woman, and Alphys is a woman, so... Another inspiration that I used to make Alphys' fight was Yumemi Okazaki from another old PC 98 game. A remix of her theme was used in this fight, and Alphys' final phase was reminiscent of Yumemi's boss attack. And even the giant bomb device that Alphys throws at the player was a nod to Yumemi's bomb attack. Oh, and I guess I threw in a bit of Raiko as well, because they're both scientists. Oh, fun fact. You see these white pillars that are falling right now? If your heart is hit by these, it'll be pushed to the ground. This is especially dangerous when it comes to the final phase, where you're supposed to go to the top of the screen. If you're hit by the white pillar, you'll be sent all the way to the bottom, and you get an instant game over. As for this room, whilst the original Undertale would have this platform just be a black elevated platform, I decided to modify this to just be a glass floor with red lights being shown on it, so that the underneath can be shown as well. If you couldn't guess already, the main theme for Mettaton's attacks in his first phase is Mega Man 3, with Mega Man's charge attack and inspirations from the Robot Masters found in Mega Man 3. And what about the name TK35? Mettaton Neon? Wasn't there a Mettaton Neon that was made as well by a different creator? And to that effect, yes, there was. In fact, that was the first fan-made fight that I've ever seen. And I decided to do a little homage to that through this fight, hence why the name is the same. You're welcome, creator whom I don't know. I also decided to remodel the core to have these party-esque sort of corridors. I mean, you probably can't see it in the overworld, but it'll exist eventually. Death by Synths! Yeah, this was supposed to be a nod to, I think it was Underswap? Or was it Story? All these AU names, man! Oh, wait. Oh, say hello to the unholy combination of Gemini Laser and Persuasion Needle. Cause you know, Needle Man and Persuasion Needle? Come on, I gotta throw in a Toho reference somewhere. If you don't know, that yellow limiter in front of you comes from BlazBlue. Yes, I'm making a BlazBlue reference now. Whenever a character goes into this overdrive state, that yellow limiter opens up and the purple bar is shown just to show how much time they have left when they're in overdrive. The infinity symbol is supposed to represent the fact that Mettaton's overdrive will never wear off. It runs indefinitely. Well, until they overload themselves and explode like a nuclear bomb. And yes, I looked at the name Maximum Overdrive and I thought to myself, man, they're gonna have a field day with this. Speaking of Toho references, I decided to make second phase Mettaton an Utsuho fight. Except, you know, with the difficulty of a stage 5 boss instead of a stage 6 boss. Nah, I left that for Asgore. If you've played the early games of BlazBlue, like Calamity, Trigger, and Continuum Shift, you'll notice that when you pick unlimited characters, their name turns pink and it glows purple. That's what I decided to do with Unlimited Mettaton Neo. Just can't stop with these BlazBlue references now, can I? Oh look, the wings are glowing red, just like Ragnar's sword when he's in unlimited mode. Fun fact, this one background right here is the only 2D background in these 3 fights. I was listening to Linkin Park one time, rest in peace Chester, and I was listening to one of their songs called The Catalyst, which was from their album 1,000 Suns. And I was thinking, Mettaton sure is throwing a lot of suns at the player. And I used a record disc back in his first phase. Linkin Park is well known for their music, so I decided to make a vague reference to Linkin Park. How, you may ask? As the vinyl comes out, I did a modified version of the Linkin Park logo to make it look more like an M, but still keeping that hexagonal sort of design. With a broken side. Wouldn't be an Utsuho reference without that one very annoying non-spell. Believe it or not, this one attack is vaguely based off of Utsuho's skills in the Hiso Tensoku fighters. I can't name all the skills that she's able to use in that game, but there are some that were vaguely implemented into this one segment. And here I have combined Abyss Nova and Subterranean Sun into one spell. Man, these references ain't gonna stop, alright? One thing you gotta know about Undertale DDD, it's a series full of references. Here's a noteworthy thing. So those yellowish beams that pop out during like the second half of this attack, those were meant to be orange, but since they were so bright, they turned up being yellowish orange. So basically, if this were to be a game, the player would have to keep moving as they pass through the beams. Just a thing to mention if anyone out there's making a game. So this right here was supposed to be a view of Cara slowly ascending above the lava as they make their way towards Asgore. But looking at it now, it looks like an explosion as well. So you know what, this can be interpreted in two ways. One, they're making their slow ascension to Asgore, and two, this is a view of a nuclear explosion. Personally, I'm starting to like that second idea. Ah yes, the biggest and the longest project of Undertale DDD. The king of the monsters himself, not Godzilla, Asgore! Now why did it take so long, you may ask? Because people think this actually took 2 years, right? Now, considering my current animation level right now, this would take approximately 5 to 7 months, right? The only reason why it took 2 years is because I was doing the other episodes, guys. I wasn't working on this for 2 years, alright? It just so happened that because I was preoccupied with the other episodes, it just took that long. On that note, the reason why I even did those episodes in the first place was because A, I wanted to do a concept for a series, you know, the what if genocide fights. And because, and I kid you not, I wanted to give Asgore some ammunition for his third phase. I am not joking. I went on this long journey just to give Asgore some third phase ammunition. When he remembers the fallen monsters and performs their attacks similarly, but more difficult. This would also be one of the few times I would do long story cutscenes on an episode that wasn't a distortion event episode. Man, we haven't even gotten to the fight yet and I've already made a PCB reference. Unknown threat of the highest level, hope for the best. That was an editor's comment reference to one of the spell cards, I just forgot who it was from. The text found in this one segment is similar to the text found in the loading segment of Ian-arou's distortion event. This would also mark the second time an overworld is being loaded in this series. I decided to keep the old introduction, just worded things a little differently here and there. You know, just a little nod to the original Child of Misery that I made before. I think the primary flaw in my first video with Asgore is the fact that I guess I just didn't really know Asgore too well. I mean, I know it sounds dumb because I say Asgore is my favorite character, but I guess I just sort of forgot what he was like. So I played through the game, I went through his dialogue, I got to get a better grasp of Asgore's personality and mannerisms and what his dialogue would be like, where he was at in life, his situation, etc. before writing this one segment. And you know what? I think it turned out pretty good. Hopefully I captured his true essence. I had a hard time drawing Asgore's face. I kept forgetting that it ain't any ordinary human face. And even then, I made his chin too big at some point. Alright. Not gonna lie, coming up with the design for the trident was hard work. In the end, it inevitably came to just improvisation. I drew what I could, erased some things that didn't really look too nice, and voila! I made a white trident adorned with gold and colored jewels that represent the soul's power. Yeah, I still kept the same powering up introduction as my old video back then. I just added a few bells and whistles here and there and made it more flashier. 'Cause special effects! I'm so glad I ditched that old generic Asgore sprite as I did back then that did not move an inch. Because now I made my new sprite, and I'm pretty happy with it. I wanted to give this whole imperial, intimidating sort of feel to it, and hopefully it did its job. And I revamped the statistics as well. I kept the 80 defense because that's the defense Asgore had in the original genocide ending to Undertale when Cara struck him and it did 999 something damage. So I kept that defense to coincide with the fact that Cara still does the same amount of damage. But our old buddy Asgore here has 40 billion health, so Cara has to hit him at least like 4 or 5 times. Now his attack, however, has been multiplied by 10. Not that statistics really matter in the world of Undertale because, you know, the original Asgore had 80 attack and you were level 1 and you still somehow survived. Whoa, Asgore looks at the player now. As for the first attack, yep, it's the same one from my old video. Except since the soul moves slightly slower, it's just a little bit more difficult. The first phase typically still involved the old attacks from before, but I just decided to revamp them to look more new and a little more sophisticated. I know I feel like I'm beating a dead horse at this point, but to put it simply, main inspirations for Asgore, Yuyuko and Mima. I made this long rant back in my 10k commentary special, so I'm not gonna go into further detail, but that's all you need to know. And yeah. Alright, I'm leaving it alone now. Yeah, I know, this is a bit of an unavoidable moment. The player will always lose at least 9 HP in this fight. So technically speaking, this can't be no hit run because you still take damage, but if you consider unavoidable attacks not a hit, then you're fine. Not that this would be no hittable anytime soon. I mean, even for me, I see this and I'm like, what is going on here? Merg, if you're out there and this becomes a game, I challenge you. I'll give you like $5 if you can no-hit this thing. Of course, however, if this were to be a game, things would have to be turned down a lot. For instance, the shaking of the screen would probably have to be turned down a little bit so that the player doesn't get, like, nauseated. As for the bullet density, nah, it's fine. It'll make them Touhou players right at home. Ah yes, the soul phases. So as for these soul phases, I decided to make even more Touhou references, cause you know, this series wouldn't be Undertale DDD if it weren't for endless Touhou and random references. The light blue soul is explanatory enough, it's Sakuya, cause you know, knives and time stopping. Oh, here's something you won't get probably. So the orange soul was based on a PC98 character. Orange! Yeah, no, that's actually her name. Trying to turn a stage 1 boss's attack patterns into something more difficult is hard. I had the same problem with Foregone Kid's fight when I was using Rumiya as the inspiration. Alright, so this one's a little more vague as well. So this one was supposed to be based off Nitori. Don't worry, it's a Windows era character. Alright, so this one should be obvious to you Touhou players. Pentagram, it's green, Sanae. That was the inspiration. And don't at me if I said her name wrong, okay? It's like tomato, far out. This one should also be simple. It's purple, books are involved, and you have non-directional laser. No, it's not Marissa, it's Patchouli. For some reason, someone thought this was supposed to be reminiscent of Remilia, Scarlet. And I guess if the soul was red, but since it's yellow, I'd think more to use Show, because that's what I actually used. As I mentioned before, the third phase revolved around all the monsters that I made episodes of. Toriel, Papyrus, Monster Kid, Undying, and Mettaton. Alphys isn't here because she's a mid-boss. Now, with Cara's fourth attack here, it may look like Asgore has a Undying moment when he like jumps back and presumes the fourth phase. But actually, if you can see the health bar, there's just a little green tinge there to resemble the fact that there's just a little bit of health. That's because Cara hits Asgore 4 times with that number on the screen, right? That times by 4 is 39,999,999,996. If you use that to subtract from 40 billion, you're left with 4 HP. So that tiny green tinge resembles 4 HP that Asgore still has left. Ugh, this one part annoyed me, and I'll tell you why. Alright, so let us review the footage. Okay, do you see this one ring that looks unavoidable and somehow the soul does not get hit? That ring was supposed to be open just like the other rings, but for some reason, right, when I rendered this video, it added that extra phantom ring, and I don't know why. I swear in the viewfinder it looked normal, and then when I rendered it, it had that extra ring, and I'm like thinking to myself, what? And it was already too late to change, right? It was already uploading, and I'm like, oh, come on. So yeah, this video has a flaw. Oh, I wouldn't count that as a hit though. Yeah, it looks like it didn't get hit because it's shaking a lot, but you know what? I consider this to be a phantom ring. It does not count. This ring decided to show up like a ghost for a... Wait, Yuyuko's a ghost? This fight revolves around the inspiration of Yuyuko. I fear my actions have come back to haunt me. What? Anyways, I just wanted to share that little tidbit with you. Glitch in the animation. Hopefully this didn't ruin your view on the animation too badly. I mean, even if it did count as a hit, which it doesn't, Cara would still have 9 HP before the big Kamehameha, final flash, whatever you call it. It was imperative that I reduced Cara and the bullets' hitboxes and increased Cara's speed, otherwise this would be nigh impossible, due to the fact that Cara has an inherently large hitbox. Also, I had to throw in one more Yuyuko reference by adding in Resurrection Butterfly, well at least the first phase of it. And as for the spell card, oh, I meant attack. As for the attack's name, I decided to throw a reference to Border of Life with Life's Final Frontier, because frontier is a synonym for border. Huh? Did I do good? Everything else from then on was a replica of the old attacks that I used in my first video, just as a little nostalgic nod to the Child of Misery that I made before. And I knew, the moment I made Asgore's sprite, I knew, oh, this was solely not my intention, but they're gonna quote a T-pose meme comment, aren't they? And to my unsurprise, you guys don't disappoint. Well done. And then because the trident has those like 6 stones, and it looks sorta golden, someone made a comment that it sorta resembled the Infinity Gauntlet to some extent. Man, not even my animations can escape a Thanos meme. In fact, someone commented Thanos gore, and to that I say, I acknowledge the fact that this segment right here is like nigh impossible unless you can really focus amidst the shaking and the other Danmaku that's being thrown at you with the giant Kamehameha beams. But this was made with theatrics in mind, so of course it's not supposed to be fair and balanced. This is a show, an animation. On the topic of that, it says fan-made animation. Why are people assuming this is a game? You think I can do this? I'm a normal difficulty Toho player. In fact, I'm pulling my teeth just to beat Toho UFO. Far out. I only managed to beat that with like 1 life left. Here's something that'll put you on edge. So that giant final beam that Asgore does will always leave the player with that exact amount of HP, right? Now, the next hit they take will kill them. And since Asgore has 1 more attack to go, the player will be pressured to dodge all of Asgore's swings without being hit once. Otherwise, game over, man! Game over! Oh man. Envisioning how the scene would pan out with the music and the dialogue, I legit cried. I did. Like maybe not a bawling sort of cry, but I did tear up a little. Of course you guys would make one final Infinity War meme, akin to Toriel's credits where it shows her heart shattering and joining the other souls flying by. I did the same thing here with Asgore, as a little nostalgic tie-in to episode 1 and the journey to get here. Why did I use this background in some of my genocide episodes? Well, the souls flying by were just meant to represent the lost and fallen monsters, the countless victims of the endless genocide runs. In fact, it's not known how long the player has been going at this genocide, how many runs they've made. You could probably gauge how many runs they've made just by looking at this one screen. Quite ominous when you put it that way. Alright, I need to address this because people think I'm portraying Cara as purely evil. That's not my intention. In fact, I tried, okay, well, I say tried because I might have unintentionally portrayed them as pure evil. Alright? I tried to portray them as simply misled. In fact, they remarked the fact that they can only recall one destiny and they've always remembered just killing monsters. It's implied that they've forgotten there's such a thing as a pacifist route, or perhaps the concept of a pacifist run is just so alien to them now. Either way, I tried to, in a sense, portray them as somewhat of a victim to this long run of genocide routes. But instead of being on the end of the blade, they're the one holding the blade. Until, of course, we decide to defy them, now they're the ones being fought against. And yes, this means there's a confirmed Cara fight. It might not be as big and epic as Asgore's fight, but don't worry, I'm not gonna sleep on the job. I've already envisioned what it's gonna be like. It's just a matter of putting it onto paper now. Computer in this case. And there you have it, folks! That's all I gotta say for all my Undertale DDD animations. Well, until I make new ones, that is. Might have missed a few things, but they might have been just minor stuff, you know? Besides, can't reveal everything. Some things would just lose their magic, you know? This marks the end of my milestone commentary, and hope you guys enjoyed and were entertained despite listening to me for 35 plus minutes. I'm gonna be releasing another video soon regarding the fate and future of Undertale DDD, so hope you guys stick around. Anyways, this is TK35, resigning for now. Well, hey, an outro phrase.